Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So it's been a crazy week in the news in America. Obviously, we all know what happened with the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but we are not a political focused channel. Sometimes we do stuff like that. What we really do is focus on special forces, special operations, and adjacent events and information. Okay, so we're going to get back to that on this video, and we are going to talk about the most common ways that special forces soldiers ruin their careers. Okay, and why this could kind of be applicable to you is that these are also things that I think ruin a lot of careers and lives in general. All right, so there's three like really big ones, and they kind of spiderweb together a lot of the time. And you'd be actually probably shocked about how many guys actually lose their careers in SF. And it's really sad to see, one, because it ruins lives and families, but two, the amount of effort and work it takes to earn a Green Beret is obscene, and to throw it away on some of these things, it's terrible to see. Okay, so we're gonna just kind of start at the top, which is kind of the most common way for guys to lose their careers, and then work our way down. All right, so jumping into it, the number one, and I would say like per capita, the most guys across the regiment, and I think it's probably overwhelming, is going to be substance abuse. Okay, substance abuse takes a bunch of different forms: alcoholism, alcohol-related incidents, drug use. Right, it's not limited to anything like that. Right, so there's some underscored things here that fall under substance abuse. Bunch of different ways guys ruin their careers with substance abuse. Okay, the number one, and this is like almost the guaranteed way to ruin and end your career and probably get kicked out of the military most of the time, is DUIs. Okay, gone are the days of, 2001, where you know you had a sergeant major in your unit that had 6 DUIs and he was still in the force. That's not a thing anymore. Okay, war is gone. Yes, retention's bad right now, but yeah, DUI is almost a guaranteed way of getting GOMAR'd and then kicked out of the military. A lot of times there's really anything anyone can do to help you. You could be the best soldier in the unit. It's not going to matter. You're torched. You're done. And while you won't necessarily get a dishonorable discharge from that, your military career is still immediately over. Okay, the only times I've seen this not be an immediate career ender, even though it comes close, is out in Okinawa, Japan. Okay, so for those of you who didn't know, in Okinawa, the legal drinking age, or the legal drinking limit, is 0.03%, which is like a beer for most people. So you have to be extremely careful while you're stationed in Okinawa that you don't drink and drive. It's basically, if you have any alcohol at all, you cannot drink. And I've seen a bunch of guys out in Oki get popped for DUIs at like a 0.032, which is not even a buzz, right? The thing out there is most guys typically aren't kicked out because they didn't break the federal law, the United States federal law, military federal law, which is 0.08. So it's more of a fact that they got arrested off base by the Japanese authorities, which most likely you're going to get kicked off your team. You're going to go get stuck in a hole somewhere, but at least there, maybe not lose your entire career. But anywhere else, yeah, you're done, right? The next big one, super common, popping hot on drug tests. Okay, so we, contrary to popular belief, we get drug tested all the time, just like the regular military. Okay, standardized drug testings, randomized, happen all the time. This one is, again, another, while maybe not as immediately career-ending as a DUI, very close, and that's popping hot on drug tests, especially depending on what you pop hot for, right? You got to be very careful if you live in a place like Washington, like I did, where weed is legal, and you accidentally have an edible or something, and, you know, accidentally, as some guys say, and then you pop hot on a drug test, and your career is pretty much over. Okay, so that's unfortunately another really common one. And then this one might surprise you guys. and it's being under the influence of substances at work. Okay, so obviously our job, the things we do, handling firearms, shooting, jumping out of planes, scuba diving, being drunk or high at work is obviously a huge no-go, and I actually know personally multiple guys on teams I was on get kicked off teams for this exact thing. And then downrange, what I've seen, not on my team, but quite a few guys, especially with our 18 Deltas who have access to fentanyl and ketamine and all this stuff at their disposal, is sometimes guys unfortunately getting high on their own supply and getting caught, okay? That's more rare, but it is something I've seen happen. And then the fourth one is getting arrested for alcohol-related incidents. And big ones here is in foreign countries while deployed, okay? Yes, we deploy all over the world, and we go to some places that is fun for us to go out and have a good time, okay? We're not limited to just stay on military bases. We are allowed to go out and, you know, party at times too. But you have to do so responsibly, right? You end up in a prison in Thailand, or a jail in Thailand for an alcohol-related incident. It's not going to go well for your career because you've caused an international incident, right? Now, the thing that kind of falls in here is, and what oftentimes spurs this on, right? Sometimes it's guys doing some dumb stuff, but unfortunately, we have a huge issue with PTSD, combat-related trauma, things like that. Injuries, okay, me personally, 10 different invasive surgeries. Guys get hooked on pills. They start taking the bottle to deal with their PTSD, and it unfortunately spirals out of control, okay? So even though not everybody has a substance abuse gets caught, I know a ton of guys who end up having to go to basically rehab to deal with their substance abuse issues. It's very, very common, okay? Because the job is what it is, right? So, number one, substance abuse, by far, okay? Number two, next thing I've seen the most guys get their careers ended for, their relationships. And I mean their romantic relationships, okay? Big one, immediate career ender, domestic violence, right? And unfortunately, this is whether it turns out to be true or not, okay? As we saw recently, even though he was retired with the Mike Glover situation, you're gonna instantly get fried before the truth comes out. And then while you're active duty, it's even worse. Your wife reports, you get arrested for domestic violence, your career's just done on the spot before they do an investigation or anything else. It's almost impossible to come back from. Super sad to see. And in most cases, it turns out that it's, you know, an argument that the wife was pissed, said something she didn't mean, but soldier's career is over. Now, I want to break 1 second and talk about, because some of you may be thinking or asking, or those in the military have seen this, does your rank matter in how much trouble you're going to get into? And I will tell you, you may think, no, everybody's on the same place. Absolutely. Let me give you an example while we're talking about domestic violence, okay? So a few years back in first group, the first group commander, Colonel Owen Ray, and I will name drop him because he's such a fucking piece of shit and I have no problem saying that. He got arrested because he basically was beating the shit out of his wife, kicked her in the face with his boots a bunch of times, held her at gunpoint, threatened to kill her in front of his kids, and then got in an armed standoff with police. I mean, it doesn't get more extreme than that, right? What ended up happening to him? Sure, he got charged with felonies and convicted in court, but in the military, he was allowed to keep his retirement, didn't have his tab pulled, still has his Green Beret, right? So, yes, that's a big black eye on first group. Love first group, but the fact that we didn't torch him, yeah, we screwed that one up big time. While, like on the flip side, I saw, I've seen someone in E6 who had their personal pistol in the barracks and was caught with it, right? Not doing anything crazy, just did a room inspection, got caught that he had his personal handgun in the barracks, had his tab pulled, and he was kicked out of the regiment because he was an E6, okay? So, yes, it matters. Unfortunately, higher up the chain you go, the more you're protected, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. All right, next, With relationships, getting back to that, the next big one, infidelity. All right, in the military, this is a huge, huge no-no. Does it happen? Of course, it happens everywhere in the world. But in the military, if it gets found out, as in you cheat on your wife and she contacts your commander and reports you and has proof, you're effed, right? They're gonna hose you. They're gonna pull your tab, they're gonna pull your beret, they're gonna kick you out of the regiment. You're most likely gonna get GOMAR'd. It's serious, guys. And why? Because one of the core attributes in Special Forces is integrity. It's one of the main ones. We have to have integrity with the type of things we go out and do. And if you've demonstrated that you're willing to cheat on your wife, and a lot of this times is, you know, 1st group, 7th group, guys in Colombia and Philippines and Thailand doing dumb shit, you've shown that you don't have any integrity, and you can find yourself out the door with that one, okay? So keep that in mind for all you youngins who are growing up in the force. You got to be smart, right? And then number 3, divorce. Now, while getting divorced inherently, I've been divorced. Everybody in SF's been divorced at least once almost. Well, divorce, you know, nothing wrong with divorce. It happens. What divorce can do is can spiral guys into those previous ones, especially substance abuse, right? When a guy's going through a nasty divorce, his kids get taken away, he doesn't see his kids anymore, he starts suffering at work, he turns to the bottle, he turns to drugs, and that nasty cycle can start because of that, right? So unfortunately, divorce spurs on a lot of guys that, again, spiral the drain and ruin their careers with that. All right, moving on to the number 3 most common way guys ruin their careers, and that's just going to be work performance, right? You have to succeed and continue to succeed in an organization like Army Special Forces, okay? If you get to a team and you go to dive school and you're on a dive team and you fail dive school, you're gonna get kicked off the team. Now, while your career's not over, if you then go to the Halo team and they send you to Halo school and you fail Halo school, you get kicked off that team, right? And then you go to mountain school and you fail mountain school and get kicked off that team, right? That's the type of thing that is going to basically ruin your reputation. You get kicked off enough teams, your career's just over. They're not gonna kick you out of the regiment for this, but they are just gonna stuff you in an arms room or some administration position for the rest of your career, and that's it for you, okay? This happens a lot. Now, while it's not a military career ender, it is kind of a Special Forces career ender in that regard. Training incidents, right? Surprisingly, a lot of these negligent discharges, okay? So, right before I left Okinawa, the brand new team leader down the hallway shot himself with his pistol inside the team room. Negligently discharged his pistol with a round in the chamber, cleaning his pistol. One of my teammates, love him to death, but he negligently discharged his M4 with a simulation round in it in training, and shot the company sergeant major in the chest with it, right? So these things actually happen a lot. I know like 10 different guys in 1st group who have had their careers sort of railroaded by doing something like this, right? And then safety violation type stuff as well. If you do some massive apparent safety violation, wreck a MATV or whatever due to neglect, stuff like that can also get you booted. Losing equipment, okay, losing your weapon, like nods, all those things, very likely to definitely get you booted off a team and potentially out of the regiment as well if it's serious enough. And with that, also work performance, guys, and this ties into the kind of the last thing, which is your reputation, all right? Your reputation in Special Forces is everything, okay? It's not like the civilian world where you could have a terrible reputation at your job, move organizations, nobody knows who you are, you get a fresh start. There is no fresh start in Special Forces. Everyone knows everyone, okay? Especially in group. So examples, guys get kicked off teams, maybe out in Okinawa, they go back to group main. As soon as they get to a team, there's gonna be a team sergeant on that team who calls buddies back from Okinawa and says, hey, did you work with this guy? I've literally had teammates say, hey, do you know this guy? And I've said, yeah, that guy's a fucking piece of shit. He got kicked off the team for this XX, and they literally will just kick him off the team instantly, just based off reputation, okay? There is a Prominent YouTuber Green Beret, who I know, you know, got kicked off his team in Afghanistan, and his reputation and career was pretty much over. And yeah, that's the story of him, and that, you know, is what it is. You know, no name dropping on that, because, you know, that's just a shitty way to go, but it happens. But we haven't. How do I know that? Because we used to have what's called the STARS system, which basically tracked all these things for once you left. Basically, your entire Q course history and all your incidents and things that have happened was tracked on you. It's basically a reputation tracker, right? So guys have literally pulled the file and been like, oh, this is what happened with this guy, right? So we don't, that's been discontinued, but at this point, but still, it can happen, right? Your reputation is literally everything. Okay, anything you do, whether it be negative, positive, everyone's gonna know, all right? It's kind of a high school drama type of culture in that people talk, right? And when the guy down the hall does something stupid, everybody's gonna know. They're gonna call their buddies back in group main or whatever, and word travels real fast in the regiment when people screw up, okay? Yeah, and with that, you know, there's a lot of guys get kicked off teams, okay, for a bunch of different reasons. And while getting kicked off the team isn't inherently instantly a career ender, okay, I know guys that have been kicked off my teams that have come back, and not to our team, but to a different team, and had pretty successful careers and done a very good job, okay? Mistakes happen, shit happens, but if you have a track record of screwing up over and over and over again, especially making the same mistake multiple times, you're gonna quickly find your reputation ruined and find your way sort of out the door and no longer on a team, okay? And, you know, in almost 8 years team time, I saw, you know, on the teams and, you know, in the company in the hallways, I saw a lot of guys ruin their careers over that near decade, right? So it's unfortunate to see, but again, in the civilian world and at your job, this is probably, a lot of these are probably the same things that could probably ruin your life and your career, okay? So be smart out there. Me personally, you know, following a lot of my combat and PTSD issues, started hitting the bottle pretty hard. Following one of my combat deployments that was really bad and really nasty. You know, but I luckily realized it and, you know, put that shit away, and I barely drink, right? I have a seltzer here and there, but I just think it's, you know, for your own health and your career and your family, it's better just to stay away from all that stuff if you can, right? And if you need help, make sure you go get help. All right, guys, I hope you guys found that interesting, and yeah, hopefully this maybe helps you if you're dealing with some of this stuff to, you know, cut the shit too. All right, guys, have a good one.